Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into the world of Queen Elizabeth I.
A fascinating choice.
You provided some really fascinating material on her reign and the whole Elizabethan era.
Right.
We'll be focusing on the Wikipedia articles for Elizabeth I and Elizabethan era for this one.
Great sources.
It's incredible to think that this period, which saw so much change, is often called a golden age.
It really is.
So how did Elizabeth navigate the religious and political turmoil of her time?
Yeah.
And what exactly made this era so remarkable?
Well, it's interesting because, Elizabeth's journey to the throne was anything but smooth.
I can imagine.
She faced challenges right from the start.
Yeah.
Imagine being declared illegitimate as a child.
Oh, my goodness.
After your mother, Anne Boleyn, is executed
by
your own father, Henry VIII.
Oh, wow.
Talk about a dysfunctional family.
Talk about a tough way to start life. It's hard to even fathom the emotional impact of that kind of upheaval.
Absolutely.
But despite such a dramatic start to life, she received an exceptional education.
She did.
Fluency in multiple languages.
Yeah.
Deep dives into classical texts.
Exactly.
We're not just talking about book smarts here. This is a testament to her resilience.
Absolutely. And you can see those qualities reflected throughout her life.
Yeah.
Think about it. She spoke at least 6 languages fluently.
Wow.
Which would have given her a significant edge in the world of diplomacy.
Oh, for sure.
This was long before Google Translate.
Right.
So her linguistic prowess must have been invaluable.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if modern leaders would benefit from brushing up on their language skill.
Oh, good point.
But her troubles didn't end with language barriers.
Right.
She even faced imprisonment under her half-sister, Queen Mary.
Oh, yeah.
Suspected of supporting Protestant rebels.
Uh-huh.
Religion was a powder keg during that time, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. England was in constant flux, swaying between Catholicism and Protestantism with each new monarch.
Wow.
Mary, a devout Catholic, viewed Elizabeth's Protestant upbringing as a threat. And that created a dangerous rivalry within the royal family itself.
Yeah, this wasn't just sibling rivalry. This was a clash of ideologies with incredibly high stakes.
Exactly.
But Elizabeth, always strategic, used this religious tension to her advantage when she finally ascended to the throne.
She did.
She established the Church of England with herself at the helm.
Right.
Calling it the Elizabethan religious settlement.
Yeah.
It's amazing how this one decision continues to have ripple effects on England's religious landscape even today.
It was a shrewd move.
It really was.
Creating a semblance of religious tolerance.
Yeah.
While solidifying England's identity as a Protestant nation.
Right.
However, it didn't come without its challenges.
I bet.
Throughout her reign, she had to contend with opposition from both staunch Catholics and Puritan reformers.
So it seems like she could never quite escape religious conflict.
Not really, no.
Now on to another pressing matter. Marriage and heirs.
Okay.
Elizabeth faced immense pressure to marry and secure the Tudor dynasty. She had her pick of suitors, too, from what I understand.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where her famous Virgin Queen persona comes into play.
Right.
There's endless speculation about whether this was a strategic maneuver to maintain her power, or if it reflected her true feelings.
Right.
It's a question that continues to fascinate historians today.
For sure.
Did she ever love any of her suitors?
Yeah.
Or did she brilliantly leverage her marital status to avoid being overshadowed by a husband?
Yeah, you can see why this is such a captivating question, even centuries later.
Absolutely.
In those days, a queen's power was directly tied to her husband's.
Yes.
Choosing to remain unmarried was a bold statement.
It was.
She was essentially saying, I am the ruler and I will not be controlled.
Precisely. And this independent streak also played a significant role in her foreign policy.
Okay.
Particularly when dealing with major powers like Spain, France, and even the Netherlands.
And let's not forget Scotland.
Oh, right.
Yes, her cousin, Mary, Queen of Scots, presented a considerable threat.
She did.
With her claim to the English throne and her influence as a Catholic figurehead,
definitely.
That's a whole other chapter of intrigue we could explore.
Absolutely.
But focusing on Spain for a moment.
Okay.
The rivalry between England and Spain during Elizabeth's reign was palpable.
It was.
They were locked in a battle for dominance.
Yeah.
Fueled by religious differences and economic competition.
Exactly.
Their rivalry reminds me of those epic clashes you see in historical films. With high-seas adventures and daring raids.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, English privateers essentially sanctioned pirates.
Right.
Plundering Spanish ships laden with New World gold.
Wow.
That's straight out of an adventure novel.
It certainly captures the spirit of the age.
He does.
And of course, no conversation about Anglo-Spanish relations during Elizabeth's reign would be complete without mentioning the Spanish Armada.
Oh, of course.
This wasn't just a skirmish.
Yeah.
It was a defining moment in Elizabethan history and a testament to her leadership.
The attempted invasion of England by the Spanish Armada in 1588 is legendary. I've always been fascinated by the accounts of the English using fire ships against the much larger Spanish fleet.
Right.
It seems like such a daring and almost desperate tactic.
It was a risky strategy, no doubt. Imagine English ships, smaller and more agile,
Right.
harassing the formidable Spanish fleet
Yeah.
while sending blazing hulks, these fire ships,
Right.
careening toward their formations.
Oh, wow.
It's a scene of chaos and brilliance
Yeah.
that ultimately contributed to England's victory
Right.
and solidified Elizabeth's image as a strategic leader.
It makes you wonder how different history might have unfolded if the Armada had been successful.
It's incredible to think about, isn't it?
But the Armada wasn't her only military endeavor, was it?
No, not at all.
The sources mention campaigns in the Netherlands and Ireland,
Yeah.
though not all were as successful.
That's right. Elizabeth faced constant challenges in balancing her ambitions with England's limited resources.
Right. She was famously frugal, hesitant to pour endless funds into protracted conflicts,
Yeah.
even when they held strategic importance.
It makes you think about the weight of those decisions.
Absolutely.
Wars are costly, both in terms of resources and human life.
Right.
She had to weigh the potential gains against the very real sacrifices involved.
She did.
And speaking of exploration, this was also a time of great voyages and colonial ambitions.
It was.
The story of Sir Walter Raleigh and the lost colony of Roanoke comes to mind,
Yeah.
shrouded in mystery and the allure of the New World.
It's a fascinating story.
It is.
And we can't forget other iconic figures like Francis Drake,
Yes.
circumnavigating the globe,
Yeah.
and Martin Frobisher's relentless search for the Northwest Passage.
These voyages encapsulate the Elizabethan era's spirit of adventure,
They do.
a sense of expanding horizons,
Yeah.
and England's ambition to become a global power.
Exactly. And that brings us to the heart of what many consider the Golden Age.
Okay.
This was an era when arts and culture flourished. Yeah.
We see the rise of theatrical giants like Shakespeare and Marlowe with
Yeah.
theaters packed to the rafters.
Wow.
Imagine 15,000 people a week flocking to London's theaters by 1595.
That's a staggering number. It speaks to the incredible popularity of theater during that time.
It does.
And let's not forget the groundlings.
Right.
Those theater enthusiasts who stood in the open courtyard for a penny apiece to witness these groundbreaking plays.
They were really something.
They were the lifeblood of the Elizabethan theater scene.
They were, weren't they? Their energy and enthusiasm fueled these productions.
I bet.
It's a reminder that the arts, even back then, had the power to transcend social barriers,
Yeah,
bringing people together from all walks of life.
it's amazing.
And it wasn't just theater. Music also experienced a renaissance,
Right.
with composers like William Byrd and John Dowland
Okay.
creating masterpieces that continue to enchant us today.
It's no wonder this period is so often romanticized.
I know, right? It's captivating. It's easy to get swept up in the glamour of the Elizabethan era.
It really is.
But, it's important to remember that this golden age had its share of shadows.
Right.
While we're celebrating the achievements of the elite,
Yeah.
what about the everyday lives of ordinary Elizabethans?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
We've talked about queens, explorers, and playwrights.
Right.
But what was life like for the average person during Elizabeth's reign?
Good question.
Did they experience this so-called golden age?
Yeah.
Or was their reality quite different?
Well, as you can imagine, it depended largely on your social standing.
Okay.
The vast majority of Elizabethans were farmers tied to the land.
Yeah.
Their lives dictated by the seasons and the demands of agriculture. I see homes were modest,
Right.
their diet simple,
Yeah.
and their days filled with back-breaking work.
It sounds like for them, life hadn't changed all that much since medieval times.
Yeah, pretty much.
But what about those who migrated to the burgeoning cities?
Right.
London, in particular, was undergoing a period of rapid growth and transformation during Elizabeth's rule.
It was.
Did city life offer a different experience?
It did, in many ways.
Okay.
London was becoming a dynamic hub of commerce and culture,
Right.
pulsating with a new energy.
Yeah.
However, it was also a city of stark contrasts.
In what way?
While the wealthy enjoyed luxurious lifestyles,
Yeah.
indulging in lavish meals, fine clothing,
Right.
and access to education and entertainment,
Yeah.
the poor often struggled to survive.
Wow.
Poverty was rampant, disease was rife, and opportunities were limited.
So even in this golden age, the gap between the haves and the have-nots was glaringly apparent.
Exactly.
And it seems the authorities weren't always sympathetic to those struggling to make ends meet.
Sadly not.
The source material mentions the implementation of vagrancy laws,
Right.
which essentially criminalize poverty.
That's right.
Wow.
It's a stark reminder that even in periods of great prosperity and progress,
Yeah.
social injustice and hardship persist. Yeah,
It's essential to acknowledge these complexities when studying history,
it is.
to look beyond the romanticized narratives
Yeah.
and grapple with the realities faced by all members of society.
It's a reminder that history is rarely black and white,
It's true.
and every era has its share of triumphs and tragedies.
For sure.
Now, shifting gears a bit,
Okay.
let's delve into the fascinating world of Elizabethan courtly life
Okay.
and the image-making that surrounded Queen Elizabeth I.
Right.
As she matured, a captivating cult of personality seems to have developed around her.
Absolutely.
She became Gloriana,
Right.
a virgin queen,
Yeah.
an almost mythical figure.
It's a fascinating aspect of her reign.
It is.
She understood the power of symbolism
Okay.
and carefully cultivated her image
Right.
through official portraits,
Yeah.
elaborate pageants,
Right.
and even the literature of the day.
It was a strategic move to solidify her authority
What?
and project an aura of power and invincibility.
It sounds like she was a master of public relations, centuries before the term even existed.
Exactly.
She understood that a ruler's image could be just as potent as their armies.
Precisely. And this carefully crafted persona served her well.
Okay.
It fostered a sense of national unity and inspired loyalty among her subjects.
However, even with this carefully curated image,
Yeah,
Elizabeth's later years were marked by a mix of triumphs and heartbreaks.
they were.
It seems that even the most powerful rulers aren't immune to the vicissitudes of life.
That's very true.
The sources mention growing economic difficulties during her final years,
Yes.
coupled with ongoing conflicts in Ireland.
Right.
And then there was the tragic episode with the Earl of Essex.
Yes, the Earl of Essex.
It's a tale as old as time. A powerful queen,
Right.
a charismatic and ambitious favorite,
Yeah,
a fall from grace, and a tragic end.
it's true.
It makes you wonder about the personal toll that power takes on a person,
Yeah,
especially after such a long and eventful reign.
absolutely.
She ruled for 44 years.
It's incredible.
That's longer than any British monarch except for Queen Victoria.
Wow.
To bear the weight of a nation for that long must have been an incredible burden.
It certainly puts her accomplishments and challenges into perspective.
It does.
And while her reign was undeniably transformative for England,
It was.
it's important to note that Elizabeth wasn't without her critics, even during her lifetime.
That's intriguing. What kind of criticism did she face? It's hard to imagine anyone questioning the Virgin Queen.
Well, some viewed her foreign policy as overly cautious,
Oh.
arguing that she hesitated to fully commit to supporting her Protestant allies abroad.
I see.
Others criticized her frugality,
Right.
suggesting that she could have invested more in strengthening England's defenses
That's...
or addressing pressing social issues.
It's a great reminder that history is rarely straightforward.
It isn't.
And even the most iconic figures are subject to scrutiny and differing opinions.
Exactly.
So was Elizabeth a brilliant strategist? A ruthless leader?
Right.
A symbol of national pride? Or perhaps all of the above?
That's the beauty of studying history.
Yeah.
It's about interpretation,
Right.
analysis,
Yeah.
and acknowledging the complexities of the past.
Okay.
Elizabeth was a product of her time,
Sure.
shaped by the social and political forces that surrounded her.
Right.
But she also played an active role in shaping her era,
She did.
leaving an indelible mark on England and the world.
It's fascinating to consider how different perspectives and interpretations can color our understanding of historical figures.
It is.
Speaking of fascinating details, I was particularly struck by the mention of Elizabeth having the first coach in England.
Oh, yes.
What?
It was a novelty from the Netherlands.
Wow.
And she certainly knew how to make an entrance.
She did.
Imagine the spectacle of Queen Elizabeth I being paraded around in this newfangled contraption.
I know.
It must have caused quite a stir.
It's such a quirky detail.
It is.
And it speaks to the fact that even in an era steeped in tradition, new ideas and innovations were beginning to emerge.
You were.
It makes you wonder what Elizabeth would have thought of the technological advances we take for granted today.
It really does.
It really does make you wonder what she would think. You know, it's amazing to think how something as simple as a coach could capture the public's imagination back then.
It's true.
You know, it speaks to the changing times
Yeah.
and Elizabeth's ability to kind of embrace these novel things
Right.
while still maintaining that regal image.
Absolutely.
Indeed. It reminds us that even amidst political intrigue and global ambitions, human curiosity and fascination with the new and innovative always finds a way to shine through.
I think that's a great point.
Speaking of intrigue,
Okay.
we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From her tumultuous childhood
Right.
and strategic rise to power through religious reforms, military triumphs and setbacks, cultural flourishes, even her personal struggles and public image.
That's a lot.
Elizabeth's story is anything but boring.
She was a complex and compelling figure, wasn't she?
She was.
Navigating a world on the brink of change.
Yeah.
She embraced the complexities of her time
Yeah.
and ultimately redefined what it meant to be a powerful ruler.
Absolutely. So as we take a step back from all of the minutiae of her reign,
Yeah.
what emerges as the most striking takeaway from all this?
Mm-hmm.
What surprised you about Elizabeth I and the Elizabethan era?
You know, I think what stands out to me is her remarkable ability to adapt and endure.
Okay.
Think about it.
Yeah.
She faced religious persecution,
Right?
political maneuvering, even threats of assassination.
Okay. Yeah.
Yet she persevered with remarkable resilience and strategic brilliance?
She was dealt a difficult hand.
For sure.
That's for sure. But she played it masterfully.
She did.
And in doing so, she shaped not only her own destiny, but the trajectory of a nation.
Absolutely.
Remember, this was a time of tremendous transformation for England.
It was.
It's a period when the country was finding its footing on the world stage.
Exactly. And Elizabeth's reign laid the groundwork for England's emergence as a global power.
Totally.
Its cultural influence and even its sense of national identity.
It's fascinating to trace those threads back to her leadership and the choices she made.
It is.
It really makes you ponder the lasting impact of a single individual,
Right.
especially when placed in a position of such immense power.
It's true.
So as we prepare to surface from this deep dive into Elizabethan England,
Okay.
I have one final question for you,
Okay, shoot.
and perhaps for our listener as well.
Okay.
How do you think Elizabeth I would fare as a leader in today's world?
Oh, wow.
Would her leadership style translate to the 21st century?
That's a thought-provoking question.
It is.
On the one hand, her ability to strategize,
Yeah.
adapt to changing circumstances,
Yeah.
and command a room, all qualities she possessed in abundance, are timeless and certainly relevant to effective leadership today.
And we can't forget her mastery of communication.
That's right.
Think of her iconic speeches, rallying her troops and captivating her subjects.
Yeah.
That kind of charisma and rhetorical skill would undoubtedly serve her well in our modern media-driven world.
Totally, but it's also a different world today with different challenges and expectations.
That's true.
Would her more cautious approach to foreign policy resonate in our globalized society?
Right.
Could she navigate the complexities of modern economics and social media? Those are questions that we can only speculate on.
It's fascinating to imagine how such a formidable figure from the past would navigate the complexities of our present.
I know, right?
And perhaps that's the mark of a truly compelling historical figure, their ability to spark our imaginations and challenge our assumptions even centuries later.
Well said.
It really is. Elizabeth I's story is a testament to the enduring power of human resilience, ambition, and the constant interplay between tradition and transformation.
That's a great way to put it.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If Elizabeth effects were leading today, what would her defining legacy be?
That's a question worth pondering. And it's one we encourage you, our listener, to explore further.
It really is.
Thank you for joining us on this fascinating deep dive into the Elizabethan era.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, keep exploring.